Putin's chef media. And you're going to be left shamefaced. So what do? You do the next best thing. You outsource it to a person who's perfectly willing to bend his morals and his ethics on going to take down Putin. Obviously, Putin must have said, cut off his finances. Natural. Putin is not going to finance his own downfall. So what happened? Who gave him money? Jai Hind, friends. I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. So friends, Yevgeny Prigozhin, I always forget his name, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the owner of the Wagner Group, has taken a U-turn. He was supposed to go to Moscow. He was supposed to call to account, the defense minister of Russia. He was supposed to unsettle Vladimir Putin. None of that happened in, funny turn of events. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. This guy suddenly says he wants to avoid bloodshed. He takes a U-turn and then he goes to Belarus. Now, what is the history of the Wagner Group? What is the history? So, it seems that Putin knew this guy for almost 20 years. That is what people are saying. He knew him for 20 years. Something happened. He committed a crime. He was sent to jail. Right? Now, Prigozhin was in jail. When he came out, he had no job. And when he had no job, he started a small restaurant, which did great business. One day, Putin ate out of his restaurant and he said, I like it. Get me more, get me more, get me more. And Putin said, okay, this guy's great. Next time we have a state banquet, Prigozhin is going to arrange for the food. And this guy came to be known as Putin's chef. Chef to Vladimir Putin. And certainly he became powerful. There are a lot of people who came, ate at his restaurant, ordered food for him, and this guy became very powerful. They say that the origins of the Wagner Group are before 2014, but it was revealed to the world only in 2014. And what this guy had done, Prigozhin actually during the US elections, he had created a force of a team of social media people, experts, people who were experts in trolling, running trends, hashtags, etc. And he tried and could manage to influence the US elections. He did it all. He had the blessings of Vladimir Putin while he did all that. What happened was that then this armed group called the Wagner Group came into being 2014, as I've already told you. And a lot of people in this group were ex-USSR army, the part of the USSR long back, now Russia. So, or ex-Russian special forces. A lot of people from Spetsnaz, a lot of people from their infantry battalions, special infantry battalions, commandos, airborne people. So he got all of these ex-servicemen together, veterans together, and he got them into the Wagner Group now. He did a lot of operations in Africa. And normally these groups like the Blackwater Group of the US or the Wagner Group of the USSR, they are used whenever the state wants absolute deniability. When the state says that we don't know what happened. We are not aware because we don't know what the Wagner Group is, or the US says we don't know what Blackwater is. The fact of the matter is they are paid by the state. They are paid by the government, but the government does not want to take responsibility for those actions. These are black actions. These are covert actions. Somebody needs to be killed. Some dirty job needs to be done. Now, you can't tell your soldiers to do it because it will come in the media. And you're going to be left shamefaced. So what do? You do the next best thing. You outsource it to a person who's perfectly willing to bend his morals and his ethics for a little bit of money. That is what all these mercenary groups do. They fight for the highest bidder. So this guy started fighting in Africa and he did a lot of stuff, mining contracts, etc. Whatever Putin wanted, whatever Russia wanted, the dirty jobs the Wagner Group did. All right. And then on 23rd of February, 2021, Vladimir Putin decided to invade Ukraine. And initially the Russian forces entered Ukraine. They were hoping to finish off Ukraine in a week, 10 days. And so was I, very honestly. I thought, what is Ukraine going to stop Russia with? They don't have an army, they have nothing. Russia is going to gobble them up. And most of the senior veterans also who were commenting on television at that point in time, most of them, I'm not saying all, most of them had estimated roughly the same thing. First of all, everybody had said Russia is not going to attack, but when Russia attacked, it's only a matter of days, a week, 2 weeks maximum. Now, Ukraine did not go down. And that led to a lot of disaffection in the Russian ranks. And then Russia threw in, or rather Putin threw in the Wagner Group to fight. And the Wagner Group was very effective. These guys, absolutely ruthless, did not follow the Geneva Conventions, did not follow anything. They just killed people left and right. And they were successful. They took 1 or 2 cities also from Ukraine. Right? And certain places that Ukraine had managed to quote unquote liberate, they took them back again. So what happened was, slowly and slowly, because of the power structure of Moscow, because of the way Russia chooses to do things, two or three things happened that really upset a lot of people, right? First of all, this guy, right? He is absolutely out of control. Now, Yevgeny Prigozhin, I keep on forgetting his name, very complicated name. This guy was absolutely out of control, is out of control. He wouldn't listen to instructions. He would always complain. He had the long ranting videos that he would put on various Telegram channels. Telegram is a very popular platform in Russia. And he would do all of that. And, he would simply, say that he doesn't agree with this and that. When you fight a war, there has to be a singular chain of command which you follow. This guy ran his own private war. And he thought he's Putin's best friend. He did not care about anybody. And he got into a direct conflict with Shoigu, the defense minister of Russia. And also the chief of general staff, so to say, of the Russian forces. He got into trouble with everybody. And he was abusing the defense minister and the chief of the Russian forces and all that. And their spat came out in the open. Now, he had a point, and which is true also. This guy, Prigozhin, he had a point that I have sacrificed maximum. Thousands of my boys have died, and what have we got for it? He blamed Russia for not conducting the war properly in Ukraine. And I have been saying the same thing for a long time. Russia has not unleashed its full power on Ukraine. For some reason, I don't know what that reason is, Russia has held back. Yes, Russia has caused grave devastation in Ukraine. Grave devastation. There is no doubt of that. But Russia could have done 10 times worse. And I think that is the complaint that he had, that Russia has not unleashed its full might. And most of these Russians, who are ex their army or people with the military sort of a background, even if they were not in the army, many of them tend to be, the nature of the state is like that, many of them tend to be ultra-nationalists, Mother Russia, that sort of thing, Mother Russia. And they felt very, very offended. And many of the hardcore nationalists on Telegram, bloggers and all, they disagreed with Putin. He says, what the hell are you doing? You're holding back and you should not hold back and unleash the complete fury of the Russian forces on Ukraine, etc. So this guy Prigozhin, he started having a very public spat with the head of their armed forces and with the defense minister, right? And after this, there were various complaints that, they have not given me ammunition. The Russians have not given him ammunition to fight, weapons to fight, etc. My supply chains are being hampered because they're jealous of me. And all these things came to the forefront. And this spat became public after Prigozhin claimed that, the Russians actually fired a missile which landed on his troops and many of his boys died. So this guy decided to take matter into his own hands and he said, I'm going to take over Russian cities. I'm going to call the Shoigu character to account, the Russian defense minister, and I'm going to unsettle Putin here. Let's go to Moscow. Now, there are various theories. Why would he suddenly do that? Number one, any nation has to fund its army. Fighting men have to be funded for a variety of reasons. There are salaries, then there are, weapons, equipment, food, medical expenses, insurance expenses, replacing worn and torn equipment, replacing damaged equipment. It's billions of dollars, yeah. Or at least in this case, hundreds of millions of dollars because he had only 50, 60,000 men or so, etc. So now I'm thinking, who financed this guy? So once he said that I'm going to take down Putin, obviously Putin must have said, cut off his finances. Natural. Putin is not going to finance his own downfall. So what happened? Who gave him money? Whose idea was this that marched to Moscow? Now, there are sources in the Western media that say, and I'm not saying I agree with those sources, but there are sources in the Western media who say that this guy was in touch with Ukrainian intelligence. He was in touch with Ukrainian intelligence and, Prigozhin actually took money from NATO. A lot of people are saying a lot of things, not confirmed. So I'm not saying that he did take money from NATO, but somebody would have funded because without funding, you can't last 5 days. Yeah, it's impossible to last 5 days or even 3 days without funding. Everything in the forge, in the army costs money. You breathe, it costs money. It is that expensive. It's not easy maintaining a force, whatever the size of that force. So somebody was giving him money. Anyway, he was 200 kilometers from Moscow. The mayor of Moscow declared an emergency. He said schools shut down on Monday and Moscow was being blockaded by trucks full of sandbags, etc., etc. Suddenly one thing happens that this guy says, I'm taking a U-turn and I'm going back to Belarus. Why Belarus? Because the president of Belarus and Putin are great friends and the president of Belarus he brokered a truce between the two of them. And he said that, no, now, no more fighting. There'll be a lot of bloodshed. This is exactly what Prigozhin said. He said, a lot of bloodshed. I'm going back. He goes back to Belarus. Russia drops all charges. There was a charge of treason on him. Russia says all charges dropped. By 1st of July, all the people who are working for, Wagner Group, who wish to stay in Russia, if you go to Belarus, fine. If you stay in Russia, then you have to ensure that you sign up and you sign a bond with us. So that's the deal. Now this guy has gone back, right? So who was funding him in the first place? And could Putin have taken advantage of this? Because Putin has suffered severe reverses in Ukraine. He's not managed a great deal of success in Ukraine. To sell this narrative to the world that, hey, I trusted the Wagner Group and these guys stabbed me in the back. Otherwise, I would have been successful in Ukraine. This was a narrative that he could have used. Now he can't use it any longer because this guy's going back to Belarus. Also, I think Prime Minister Modi made a very smart move by going and asking America for technology, America giving technology to India, and India in touch with a lot of countries for technology, and this whole Atmanirbhar Bharat thing, which is happening. It's a fantastic initiative. And the only reason is I don't know when we will start, because a lot of our equipment, more than 65% of our armed forces equipment is from Russia. And that way we need Russia. You can't have a mix and match of 25 nationalities as far as equipment is concerned. You can have a little bit of variety, but not all. So what is going to happen to our Russian equipment? Much of it we service ourselves. So it's not like we need Russia for servicing, etc. But, there are some things that you need Russia for because it's, upgrades, software upgrade, hardware upgrade, because all this R&D is being done in Russia and all that will stop. So Prime Minister Modi goes to US and he ties up, and I'm sure he's going to tie up with a lot of European countries. There is a demand in UK that we must also tie up with India because India is going weapons shopping all over the world. All we have to do is transfer technology and make in India. Let's do that. So that part is also being taken care of. So friends, this entire Ukraine-Russia war and this Wagner Group issue with Russia is going to have long-term repercussions on the Indian armed forces. Now, only the future will tell what is in store for us, but we need to diversify. Atmanirbhar Bharat needs to be given a very hard push, a very, very hard push, and we must get all these Western countries to have that top-end equipment, transfer of technology and being made in India under the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. There is no other way to do this. Now I come to the special segment, Ask Major. So, Ram Ram sir, I am Narayan from Bengaluru. Ram Ram Narayanji. He says America is regretting for helping the Chinese in setting up manufacturing plants and many other things which helped them to become the second superpower of the world. So there is a possibility where America would not be willing to help India as much as they did to China. So do we need America to become the next global? See, nobody's helping anybody. Nobody's helping anybody. Yes, India needs America, but America equally needs India. I think both countries need each other, and I think I've answered your question. Nobody's doing anybody any favors. Right? Nobody's doing any. This is a relationship of equals. Because they offered us NATO Plus, we said no. And when they said don't take oil from Russia, we said sorry, but we will. So India is following a strategy of strategic autonomy. And that has worked for us. And nobody is the boss in this relationship. Both are friends, both are equals. And Prime Minister Modi is very clear on that. The second question is Partha Datta. Jai Hind Parthaji. I have a doubt about warfare in general. You explained the importance of logistics and hence the time taken in preparation for a war. In this general scenario, if China or Pak, alias China, launch a sudden heavy attack, then how will we resist them and hit back? When the logistical unit is a bit unready and only 30% active, how will we respond? Please forgive my ignorance. Health and happiness for you. Thanks. Parthaji, Jai Hind. First of all, it's not like that. It's not like this that the logistical units are 30% ready. Logistical units are always and every time 100% ready. It does not matter whether they are in war or peace. Without logistics, you cannot fight. We have the Army Service Corps. We have the Army or AOC and ASC. Right? You can't fight a war without them. I am from the infantry and I'm telling you this. Without these guys, you forget your war. You forget your war. You can't fight without logistics. It can't happen. Not at all. Maybe in the plains, you can fight for 2 or 3 days. In the mountains, you can't even fight for 10 hours. Forget about it. So if you want to fight a decent war or even a half decent war, there is no getting away from logistics. And it's not that suddenly somebody will launch a heavy attack. Warnings are always there. When an enemy is building up, there are enough and more warnings which are there. You might choose to ignore those warnings. That's your problem. And many nations have done it in the past. India has done it in the past. But there are always warnings. You have satellites, you have your spies, you have your military intelligence setup, you have your RNAW setup, you have all these, you have HumanInt, SIGINT, EINT, you have all these intelligence networks in place. So suddenly China launching a heavy attack, these sudden things don't happen at all. We know, but it is up to us to estimate how serious this is. Sometimes you might take a wrong call and say, hey, it's not so serious, I think we can manage. But then that's your fault. How seriously or non-seriously you take it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, press like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata ki Jai.